Hi guys, welcome to our first episode recap. We plan on doing these every 5 episodes, so we're going to be covering all of our live sessions 1 through 5. We're probably going to take turns doing this, so it's going to be different every time. My name is Kira. I play Flykra, who has gotten us into some trouble lately, but you'll find that out. It's been quite a hectic few sessions. This last one was a doozy. But we'll go ahead. So over here we have our map of the world. This is called the Dark World. No relation to anything else called Dark World. That's just what it is. So we start off. We have two nobles, Rikoko and Kaede, that hire Haru to help them escape the city because their parents have arranged them to be married. They're best friends. They think it's weird. They don't want to get married together. So they're like, we need to get out of here. Along the way, they run into me, Flykra, and continue their travels. She is there because she sees a premonition that she needs to be with them for some reason. She's not sure why, but she knows she needs to be with them. While they travel, they come across a city together, and they find out that they have bounties on their head. I believe for Rikoko and Kaede it was about 10,000 gold for their head, and I think Haru was 5,000 because they found out he was involved. For me, obviously nothing because they don't know who I am. You have to excuse me, I'm coughing a little bit today. So we pay to jump on an airship. We find out we can pay to have them leave immediately for, an extra price, and we do. And it's total chaos. Reiko, he gets himself in trouble, and fires off a cannon into the ocean while they're traveling, and he gets locked up. And then Kaede and Haru are joking around and about killing. They weren't actually going to kill anybody, but they made a joke about it, and they got themselves locked up. So it was just me most of the time, but it's alright. So we travel south, because we started here up in the Hidden Kingdoms, and we traveled south to this island, which is the one where the dwarves and the elves are fighting, and we travel to the elvish side, and we land in the city. And Rikoko, he has some prior knowledge of an inn that is not very well known, called the Hidden Elf, and we go there for the night, and more chaos ensues. They got drunk. We ended up throwing Haru and Kaede in a closet together with a steel piece of bread and not explaining anything to them because they blacked out from a special shot that had been given them by the barkeep. And it was a lot of fun. So they think they're dating, and now they're pretending to be dating. It's a whole thing. While we're in the town, I believe it was Haru and Kaede, they find a quest to earn some money. It was for 10,000 gold, so it's a considerable amount. They go out to the house, which is just on the outskirts, and the quest is that this elf woman, she wants to find her brother. He was reported dead in the battlefield, but she doesn't believe that he's dead. So she wants us to go and find him, find proof, whether he be dead or alive, either way. And that was session 1. So session 2, we leave the city. We had rented a carriage, I believe. We leave the city, and right off the bat, first night, we are ambushed by werewolves, which is a lot of fun. we're only level 2 at this point, so it was a little sketchy, but we were able to fend them off. I believe Haru was able to intimidate, because of his class, he's able to intimidate them to leave. We leave. We travel again. We meet a halfling called Paljor. We made a silly bet with him. I guess he had bet that Kaede was gonna get lost, and she comes back after he leaves, so he doesn't really get his money, even though he technically won. She had brought back a bunch of rabbits, so Reiko starts making rabbit jerky, and we travel again. I believe we get ambushed again on the road, and it's like a whole Fast and Furious. We're like fighting each other and shooting projectiles at each other, and we were able to fend them off again without too much damage. As we continue to travel, we run into Paljor again, who says, "Hey, I won my bet, I want my money," so I ended up paying him. He came in like in the middle of the night during my watch, so it was a little weird. But I tend to have an infatuation with Paljor all of a sudden, and I call him my pal. He's a cool dude, but he seems to know a lot, so we'll see. Session 3, we are attacked again. These werewolves will not get off our back. Haru and Kaede got bitten, and you only have a limited amount of time before you are permanently a werewolf. So they made a deal to meet, and the werewolves gave us the option to join their clan in exchange for safety and in exchange for nobility. So, we'd have a place to be. He knew there was a price on our heads. So he's giving us an option to join them because more power in numbers. We take some time to think it over, and I have the special ability to summon Paljor, I think. It's great. He comes, and he just happens to have a way to heal them of their lycanthropy, and he also supplies us with silver, and I think it was a silver concoction. It was like a liquid that we put on our weapons to act as silver to help them, and we've made a plan to trap the werewolves and defeat them. And during the battle, again, I summon Paljor, and he appears at the right time and blasts these guys with a fireball, and it was pretty cool. We learned that Paljor was part of a werewolf hunting guild, so we decided to join them because, again, more power numbers, we get a place to stay, we get safety, we're not going to get hunted, at least by anybody in the guild. So, and we get to keep that special scroll of nobility that just happened to be on one of the bodies of the werewolves, so that might come in handy later, we'll see. Session 4 wasn't a whole lot. We ran into some dwarves. Me and Kaede were out hunting, and we came across an encampment. At the same time, Reiko and Haru had a couple of dwarves come into our camp, and they kind of were like, "Hey, let's just talk it out. Like, what's going on?" No, we aren't really choosing sides at the moment, and we learn, that they're starving and they're on their way with their party to the city, I believe. But they're starving because food is limited. So Reiko gives them the beef jerky that he had made. We've been traveling for a little bit now. And yeah, we had run across the dwarf encampment while out hunting, and we decided not to engage them, so we went back. In return for giving food, these dwarves that came into our camp gave Reiko an axe. That's obviously dwarven made, just in case, as an item of goodwill, if you would say. So if they came across any problems, they'd give them an axe, say, "Hey, we're friendly, don't hurt us." There, in the previous city, there was a second city that we had traveled to. Flykra was able to acquire some special herbs. She was recognized, so Flykra is a hippie, by the way, I forgot to mention. She was recognized by another hippie, and he said, hey, I have these herbs, you know. And Flykra knew what these were. These were vision-inducing herbs, essentially. So the dwarves that were there kind of stayed there. We offered them a place to stay for a little bit and eat and rest, and they were there during my watch, so I was like, why not? I'm gonna try some of these herbs really quick. And she receives a vision, and what she sees is the elf that they are looking for, the brother of the woman that we accepted the quest from. We see this elf, and we see him around a table with a bunch of dwarves. And it's not looking too good. He's actually, like, having a good time with them, as in, he's probably betrayed the elven side. And on the table, they have a plan of the city that we had just left, with the guild and everything. So, and they've got, like, it looks like they have people planted in certain places, and they have plans to break down walls, and it's just really bad. It's not looking good. And we end the session by waking up. Alright, and session 5, by far, was our most insane session, I think. At the beginning, anyway. You know, you just do a lot of traveling. But this one involved some craziness, and it had been a while since we had a session, so I think we recorded for about 6 hours. But Flykra, she explains her vision to the party, and she's kind of faced with a dilemma. You know, do we go back and save the city that they're planning to destroy or take over, or do we continue and go after the elf? And Reiko reminds us that the town leadership is constantly changing back and forth between elves and dwarves, because it's a power play. You try to get more on one side, and you start forcing your way over. So we're like, okay, so maybe it's not as serious as we're trying to make it out to be, but whatever. We decide to keep going. As we start to go, Flykra, she decides to take Coyote into a vision, kind of spirit walking together, if you would. Coyote sees these weird visions of a snowy bowl, essentially lined with trees. And in the middle, we see time pass in front of us, of our party, kind of just with the carriage just in place, and time's passing, and we see a fifth figure, but he's kind of, it's not really stable. It kind of keeps changing depending on who's thinking about it, and I think eventually it finally lands on an elf that carries a sword and a shield, and happens to maybe say hiya. Kaede, she loses her focus because we can kind of hear Haru and Reiko talking outside of our vision, and she gets pulled out, and the vision changes, and it's me again, and I see this elf that we were after, but currently he's asleep across that same table. So I was like, maybe I'm gonna go outside a little bit, see if I can see a little more. And I'm in this hallway, but it feels like the entire building is just moving. And I can't really tell why, and I get pulled out really quickly before I can really look around. Haru and Reiku, they're crazy. They decide to do the drugs by themselves. So we switch off and Coyote drives. Haru has a vision of a battle between that elf and some dwarves and us, and it's kind of looking a little sketchy. You know, Reiko and Coyote looked like they were struggling a little bit. So, and Reiko just decides to let the drugs take him, and he gets a vision of his father beating on Reiko's older brother, which is, Reiko doesn't like his family, but his older brother is more of a favorite, if he had to choose. But what happened is his brother in the vision had found us and had not reported it to Reiko's father. And his father was contemplating killing him for not saying it, and this enraged Reiko. He took out his sword in the vision and tried to kill his dad in the vision, just kind of led by his emotions, and he actually ends up hurting himself and hurting Haru just a little bit. It gets a slice on his neck. It's not like super deep, but it's enough. And their vision ends. So we enter another town. This is like in the middle, so it's not super fancy because it's kind of war-torn. We return the inn, we return the carriage, and the carriage lady gets a little suspicious of me for some reason. Coyote's asking for information, and she mentioned secrets or something, and I say, oh, secrets? And she looks at me and looks like she wants to do something to me, so Coyote kind of drags me off because she recognizes, hey, something's not right. And we find another one of these hidden elf inns. They're kind of like a chain of inns that only certain people know about. And we have some more fun in here. I believe Haru and Coyote get drunk again. Same shot. They decide they think they can take it. They get the same shot, and they both pass out, blackout drunk. Reiko decided to take it. He was okay for a little bit. They interacted with this stranger that was also drunk. So I go up in the room. I'm like, whatever. I'm not drinking. I'm taking all the stuff up. And this stranger helps carry them up the stairs, and they throw them in the closet again with a steel piece of bread. And then Reiko passes out, and I was like, why not? I'll shove him in the closet too. And I shove him in the closet. So all three of them are in the closet together. And I'm told that I have 3 days to do what I want because they are out cold. So I was like, well, I'm bored, so I'm gonna go do some more herbs. I'm gonna go smoke. And this acts as sort of a god call, essentially. I am contacted by my deity, and in this vision I'm having, she shows me exactly where this machine was, and it is one of these mythological dwarven cities. This essentially looks like a giant turtle with a city on its back, and it's marching through the forest. It's made of wood on the bottom, and then it's got metal on top. And then she shows me this encampment of elves. There's like a tall armory in the middle, and she's showing me these monsters that they've put out past their encampment. She describes them as like brown, four-legged monsters, and they have like an antenna, and we believe to be rust monsters, and there are thousands of them. And recognizing the time crunch, I'm like, okay, I need to wake up my companions. Can you wake up my companions? And before we end the vision, she shows me there's this arrow I need, and it's an arrow of destruction, and it's the only thing that's going to take down that giant walking machine. So we wake up, they wake up, and I tell them what needs to happen. They're feeling much better. They were out for like a whole day or something like that. They're feeling much better, and we start to travel towards this encampment. As we got closer, we're again faced with a decision. So I decided to smoke again because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not good with leadership positions. So I smoke the herbs, and I become addicted. But I did have another vision about the armory inside the camp. I'm shown exactly where this arrow is, what it looks like, and what around it looks like. There's guards, there's a forge, blacksmith forge. So I tell them, and we go to sleep. So we'll deal with this in the morning. Elves. There's some drow in there. They've got dark vision. There's no point in trying to sneak in. So during the night, Kaede meets a dwarf. It tells her to be careful and drop the follower of present, which is me, apparently. And just to be careful with the party. It's kind of cryptic, and he kind of just disappears. And then while I'm sleeping, I believe I took watch, and I ended up falling asleep. And I was tied down to posts, and there was a human, a dwarf, and an elf. And the dwarf says, "You are warned," and basically decapitates me in my dream. And I wake up, in a cold sweat, and I can still see these posts on the ground. No one else can see these posts on the ground, but I can see them. And I pull one out and I throw it, and there's still a post on the ground. There's an extra one that I just threw. So I was like, what in the heck is going on? So, because I'm incapacitated and hallucinating, Kaede and Reiko decide to go into the camp with their own means. I believe they stop by the blacksmith, and the blacksmith recognizes who they are. Nobility of the Kitsune family. He sells Kaede an item. Reiko promises to show this arrow, because we told him what we were going to go get, and he told him, I will show you this arrow if you let us get by, essentially, which he agrees to. There's many failed attempts. They get to the armory, and there's shooting at them as they're trying to climb up the ladder, and Kaede manages to make it in. Reiko falls down and gets arrested. Me and Haru, meanwhile, are back at the camp. I'm throwing invisible sticks at him and managing to hit him in the head, but he can't see or feel these things. And we realize we can probably just walk into this camp, because it's just a war camp. It's not like they're, preventing people from coming in, as long as we're not dwarves. So Haru brings me in looking for a medic, hey, can someone help her out? She's hallucinating or something. She's not doing well. So they bring me to the medic, and I'm still in my high state, and I'm I know where I am. I saw this in my dream. So I'm just I'm getting excited, and I'm oh. And they set us down next to Reiko, who's arrested. They're treating him for some wounds or whatever. And we're trying to get an audience with one of the people in charge. And I lean over to Reiko, and I was make some noise, make some noise. And so he makes some noise, gets everybody's attention. I pop into a fox and I bolt straight for the armory, which was so much fun. I make it in successfully. Jump in. I know exactly where the arrow is. I go and I grab it, and it spawns blue fire and these clockwork monsters. And we're oh crap. We managed to kill 2 of them. Haru and Reiko, they get up there, and they manage to make it in, but Reiko gets hit pretty badly, and he's got negative hit points at this point. And I'm shoot, I don't have any spells left. I can't kill these guys, because we fought one, defeated it, fought another one, defeated it, and then 2 more spawned at the same time. And so we're there's no way. So I make another god call, and it was successful, thank goodness. My god appears to me, and she teleports us out, essentially. We black out, and we wake up. I'm cured of my addiction, But we meet Bill, who's been he's been asked to help. Bill is the blacksmith, who we learn is another kitsune, but disguised as an elf. And yeah, so he's been studying the arrow. He says he's been asked to help. We wake up. I find that I've been cured of my addiction, but I've also been bestowed much more of this herb again, which doesn't stink, so they can't tell if I smoke it or not. So that'll be exciting. Yeah, that's it so far. It's been really crazy. Sorry for this cut up, random video, but yeah, don't miss the live sessions, and we'll stay up to date, and we'll see you again on our Saturdays and in these recaps.